Are we live? Does anyone know? It's recording in as live. Okay. Good morning. I'm calling this meeting of the South Carolina Department Commission for Disabilities and Special Needs to order. Today is November the 18th, 2021 at 10 a.m. The first thing that will happen is the notice of meeting statement by Commissioner Robin Blackwood.
The notice announcing the date, time, and place of the November 18th, 2021 Commission meeting was distributed November 16th, 2021 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. Americans with Disability Act. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. I just want to welcome you all this morning. We're glad to have everyone with us and back in the room with us. I am Stephanie Rollins, and I'm the chairman of the commission. And today we've got a pretty full agenda, and but it's not as much action as normal. This is a little bit lighter. We're getting into the holiday season. I will ask that we go ahead and move toward the adoption of the agenda if we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, Commissioner Miller, would you do the invocation for us, please?
Let's pray. God our Father, help us not to lean on our own understanding, but in everything acknowledge you so that you can direct our words, thoughts, and actions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. We have the minutes to approve. That is tab 2 in the commissioner's booklets. The minutes from our last meeting, which was October the 21st, 2021. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve? What is the pleasure of the commission?
I move that we accept the minutes as written. They look good to me.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. That's tab 2. All right, now we're going to do our commissioner's update. Commissioner Miller, would you like to address the commission and give your update?
Yes. Do you mind giving the update on, you talking about me personally?
You church, anything you've done in the commission?
I don't have any updates.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay, that's okay. Commissioner.
I have none at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Blackwood?
Yeah, I have an update. Last week, Dr. Fry and I visited Thrive Upstate, and we appreciate their hospitality to share with us some of their HASKI programs, residential home, and just have access to ask a lot of different questions during our visit. I really appreciate Tyler Rex spending time with us that day. And yesterday, Commissioner Thomas and I visited Oconee DDSN board. Attended their board meeting and also toured some of their facilities, met a lot of their staff members, and we really appreciated the hospitality that they showed us, and the executive director. That's my update for.
Wonderful. We're glad you. Commissioner Mel, do you have?
No updates, Rick.
Yeah, I met with the State Director of Community Options, Inc. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They provide residential care for our providers. And I continue to find out that I have no innate knowledge of these acronyms, that you get overwhelmed very quickly. And I am learning, but you have to put up with me. But I learned CTHs and SLPs and a lot of other things. But anyway, Community Options is a wonderful organization. They have a great staff. They have a great administrative group. I toured the facilities of one of the residential areas, and it's just amazing how well the staff treats the residences, and I left feeling that they were being treated well and happy, and I appreciated their time. And I think we were able to communicate some issues. They have trouble with staffing like everybody else. They don't know what to do about it. We don't either, so we continue to work with that. But I left with a real appreciation for what community training homes do for our residents. Thank you.
Great, great. Commissioner Thomas, are you on the line? Probably was too. We'll check and make sure Commissioner Thomas is connected. I do have a brief update. I had the opportunity this month to introduce our new director to Governor McMaster. We do have Commissioner Thomas.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Do you have an update?
Oh,
for us?
I had punched the wrong number to be unmuted. I apologize.
That's all right.
Yeah. Robin and I had a great time over in Oconee County with the DDSN board. We got there slightly late, but I got to meet all the commissioners, local commissioners. My appreciation to the director, especially. He spent a lot of time with us and took us to the homes. We got to meet the local custodians, I guess would be the word, and they were an inspiring group. It was a wonderful experience. It's something that I wanted to do before COVID. So hopefully now that we've got a little bit of a respite, I'm hoping to be back on the road again and to visit as many of those local boards as possible. So I would just say to them, if they need me faster or can tell me when I should come, then it's easy to get in touch with me, and I'll go ahead and give my cell phone number again. It's 864-630-9389, 630-9389, upstate area code. And I would love to schedule some times when we can go to some more facilities. That was an inspiring experience.
Well, I thank you for doing that, Commissioner Thomas. I know those folks enjoyed having you.
Are you available 24/7?
Thank you.
24/7.
24/7.
You at 3 in the morning. Are you good with that?
I'm especially awake at 3 a.m. Call in the middle of the night is perfectly okay. I'm usually up reading.
For DSP. They need some help, so.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. I will go back. We had a wonderful opportunity to meet with the governor, and very pleased, very good meeting. Was very excited to have that opportunity. I also met with with State Representative Jay Jordan from my area, and it was a great meeting as well. So we did have that. Personally, I've had some sadness in the last week. I know most of you know Senator Leatherman from Florence passed away. Senator Leatherman was a huge advocate for people with disabilities, and it's been a very sad time for us down in the PD area. So his funeral is tomorrow, and I just wanted to acknowledge and thank him and his family for what they've done for the PD Center and for the Florence community over the last few years. So. Let's see, now we're going to move to public input. We have some special guests with us today. Ms. Mazinga and her beautiful daughter, Lila. Hi, how are you, Lila?
My name is Lila, and I'm 10 years old, and I went to Disney with my mom and dad,
Uh-huh.
and I went to.
You did? You love your mom and dad?
Mm-hmm.
You're a sweet little girl.
Aww.
And we're so glad to have you here today. I'm Commissioner Rawlinson, and it's wonderful to have. Where are you from?
Cuba, South Carolina.
Okay. Well, we are excited to have you here today. Would you like to meet the other commissioners?
Sure.
This is Commissioner Blackwood,
Hi, nice to meet you. I know your mom. I used to work with her a little bit a few years ago.
and this is Commissioner Amalfris,
Hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm Barry Malford.
Mr. Berry, and Mr. Ed Miller.
How are you? It's a pleasure meeting you. Keep smiling.
She's solid. And this is Commissioner Lamel, right here
On the
behind
other
you.
side of you, there you
Mr.
are.
Gary and Mr. Gary. We have two Mr. Garys. How about that?
Yes, we do. That's very confusing, I know.
Well,
It's
we are
confusing
so,
for us too, believe me.
we're so glad you came to talk with us today. Mwah.
She was asking where the microphone is. I'm Paget Mazingo, and I have the honor of being Lila's mom, and I appreciate the opportunity to have a few minutes to talk today. From the time that we received Lila's pre-birth diagnosis, she's been written off. And my doctor actually strongly recommended us at 23 and a half weeks to terminate our pregnancy because she would never have any quality of life, mobility, or communication skills. And so thanks to the services, obviously we didn't do that and we would never have done that. But thanks to the services that we've been able to receive through DDSN and through the state, she has a pretty high quality of life. We are thrilled to represent several organizations today. I'm on the board for the ARC. We've received services from Bright Start from day one. We have made our way up the community supports waiver, and so we've struggled through COVID for respite care and that sort of thing. So because of you, services have been available to us. From the moment, despite my doctor's negativity, this child has never received anything but quality care, and lay down, quality care and quality services medically. What we have found, though, is that we have met many obstacles when we wanted more for her from an educational perspective or opportunities within the community. And that's why we were led and inspired by our journey with Lila to create an organization called Limitless Purpose, which we were blessed to be able to create that as a nonprofit in late 2019. And we're really moving forward pre-COVID. But despite COVID and a volunteer board and an with no administrative fees, that organization received private funding and was able to secure donations so that in this year that we're ending in 2021, we awarded 32 Limitless Learner Awards so that individuals, much like summer incentive supply, money in the past, those individuals 18 and under with a disability were able to have a summer experience. Thankfully, some of those returned this year. But we had a child with autism who received a tutor over the summer so that he could stay in gen ed classes. We had a young girl with Down syndrome who was able to take swimming lessons and pass the swimming test, which as a 5-year-old, you can imagine, does a whole lot. It's hard to find individuals to even give children with Down syndrome swimming lessons in a typical environment. So we were able to help 32 families have their children have an opportunity in the summer that works towards inclusion. And that's what Limitless Purpose is doing. We're working to have every child grow, learn, and thrive, and overcome obstacles that we've overcome creatively, despite all the great things that y'all are doing. We also repurposed children's books. We pulled her from public school in our 32nd IEP meeting when we were told that she didn't need to learn to read because she was protected by her IEP. That was with a facilitator in the room too through DOE. So we pulled her. We have the opportunity and we've made sacrifices to be able to do that. Not every family obviously is able to do that. And so we have repurposed children's books and books for young adults, almost 3,000 children's books and books for young adults to pediatricians in high-risk areas, Title I schools, free little libraries, and other places, so that every child has the opportunity to have a book in their hand. And that's so important. None of our children can reach their potential if they don't learn to read, or at least have the opportunity to learn to read. We also awarded our first Limitless Impact Award to a man in the Columbia area who works every year on his own accord to raise money for children's charities, and Limitless Purpose was one of those benefactors this year, which is how we were able to award the Limitless Learner Impact Award winner, or the Limitless Learner Award, Summer Incentive Awards. And the thing I wanted to mention about that too is our original goal when we created Limitless Purpose was to award $2,500 in summer incentives because we had a commitment from Blue Cross and Blue Shield for that amount of money. Despite COVID, through individual donations and the work of our board members, The 32 individuals who are awarded summer incentives, that amount totaled over $10,300. And that's despite COVID. It's all through creative ask and creative ways of involving businesses, because the same folks that I was trying to get her in the classroom with when I wanted her in a general ed classroom are going to be the same people hiring when she's 25 and trying to find a place in the community to have a valuable experience. And that's what we really want for her and what every parent wants. And that's what I think the biggest thing for us is we also have a 17-year-old who's about to graduate. He's going to be valedictorian, has a 5.3 GPA. He's been overserved by the same district that essentially wrote her off. And that's not what families deserve. Every child with a diagnosis is like every other child. They all have a different level of ability, a different level of skill, and different interest areas. And despite the hard work that all of you have to do and the organizations and the services that you provide, there still needs to be more for our children. And that's why Limitless Purpose doesn't just serve children. Our dream is that it won't just serve children with disabilities, but in 25 years, inclusion happens inherently in our community that leads to understanding and acceptance. So hopefully the work that you'll be doing will be much easier then, but we still know children will be disadvantaged and need opportunities and help then. And my dream is that when our children are big and they're working on efforts like this, that's the sort of thing they'll be able to do. So I say all that. Thank you very much for all the work that you do. You have helped us have opportunities and to know that our child is loved and valued when we didn't get that from other places. But I just ask you to continue your work and keep understanding that parents like us don't just want the minimum. We want, when they're young, opportunities for them to thrive so that they don't need your help when they're adults.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I agree. It was a pleasure to meet Lila. We'd invite Lila to come back anytime she'd like to come.
Yes.
How about
Would you
that?
like to come back sometime?
Third Thursday of every month.
A little bit.
Better day.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, I think that concludes our public input session this morning. Apprenticeship Carolina, Dr. Amy Firestone is going to speak with us this morning. Is Amy here? Coming
Hi,
on
good
virtual.
morning.
Okay.
You guys see me and hear me?
Morning. Yes, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you all so much for taking out a few minutes to have me speak to you all, and I really appreciate the invitation from Dr. Fry. It's a great opportunity, and I was just listening to a few of the statements from the young lady's mother, and I'm excited to speak with you all about a big opportunity. So if you guys are ready for me to dive in, I'm ready.
Let's go.
Go ahead.
Fantastic. I had the great pleasure of meeting Dr. Fry in another role and collaborating on apprenticeships. And I'm not sure if you all are familiar with Apprenticeship Carolina, but I wanted to share with you some information on how working together, Apprenticeship Carolina and your agency, we can continue to have more Lilas out there who are successful, who are making a change, not just in their own families, but for a community of people who face challenges with disabilities, and for the communities that they'll end up serving as being community members, as being professionals. So Apprenticeship Carolina has some exciting opportunities, and what I wanted to do was start out by sharing my screen with some information. And this will be a pretty broad overview, but we'll be looking forward to getting into more details with Dr. Fry and her team. But can you guys see my screen? Let me know if you're not able to see it.
Got it.
We're good? Okay, perfect. So I thought it would be easy, instead of a lengthy PowerPoint slide, to give you all an overview of Apprenticeship Carolina and how we are helping organizations, businesses expand their workforce through registered apprenticeships. So Apprenticeship Carolina, I'm the vice president for that division for the state. We're based out of the South Carolina Technical College System. And we have been around since 2007, helping employers of all different types of industries, and we have some samples on the screen, create a new talent pipeline to meet their biggest needs to grow their businesses and organizations. So we work on registered apprenticeships, and these are programs that combine on-the-job learning with classroom instruction with the mentor, that are all in which apprentices receive a national credential from the U.S. Department of Labor. So some of our statistics show that we have over 1,000 companies that we're working with statewide across all these different industries in the state. And a lot of our industries are looking at new solutions because they are struggling with people retiring, with people not coming to them with the skills they need to be able to work in these different careers. We are helping them create a career ladder through a registered apprenticeship. So you can kind of see a snapshot here of the different industries we work with. We are partnered with the 16 technical colleges in the state that provide a lot of the classroom education, which means that an individual is able to really advance their career by taking courses that translate into college credits and other industry recognized credentials as they work. And so I wanted to just kind of show you the model that we work with. As I mentioned before, it's job-related education, supervised on-the-job learning, which includes a mentor, and a scalable wage, which makes this program very different from an internship where individuals may or may not get paid. It may not see the benefits of what they're learning through their compensation. So the program is registered apprenticeships are a national program. I'm actually here right now in Washington, D.C., because it is National Apprenticeship Week. So I am here celebrating with different officials, some very exciting things happening right now on the national level and in South Carolina. So registered apprenticeships are really seen to be a premier way to train your workforce. And Apprenticeship Carolina has been doing that since 2007. We have a sample of different companies. We have worked with different state agencies on apprenticeships, and just in time, yesterday we had a meeting with the Secretary of Transportation for South Carolina, and they're working on a statewide initiative with us for registered apprentices, looking at what some of their biggest gaps are to help serve South Carolina's needs with all the new infrastructure coming in. So we do work statewide. We have a team of people who help work to build these apprenticeships and implement them anywhere in the state. And you can see that we've really touched almost every county so far. We have a few more to go with the programs that we have, and the benefits for organizations and for individuals are numerous. What you see, and I like to kind of look at the young lady that just spoke to you all and her mother. If a young lady like Layla or some of her peers who are involved in some of the programming you all have, if they go through an apprenticeship, they're going to receive the same type of training that anyone else receives, because you all create a standardized training template that anyone can go through, providing them with a mentor. And this doesn't matter what company they work with, what the industry is, what the occupation is, but a mentor who will help make sure that they are accomplishing all the tasks. And that apprentice is also receiving a wage increase. Could be 1 penny, but usually it's a lot more after they've demonstrated that they have completed some of the tasks. And what's great about all of this is that an individual, no matter if they decide to go on to college or if they're in college, or sometimes they haven't finished high school, they're going to receive a national occupational credential from the U.S. Department of Labor indicating that they are proficient in whatever occupation they have done their apprenticeship. So thinking about individuals who you serve as great potential apprenticeships, but also looking at the needs you have to serve individuals such as Layla. How can you all build a very, very successful and driven workforce that has all the skills you need and that commitment to stay with you long term to help continuing to serve individuals with disabilities in the state? And I know that individuals with disabilities, they're looking for mentorship, and they need individuals who are there to support them and understand their needs. So working collaboratively with us, I think we could come up with a great plan to help you all have a reliable long-term workforce that is dedicated to serving individuals with disabilities and being loyal. That's one of the biggest benefits that apprenticeships can offer. So I did want to also show a quick video to give you the full context of apprenticeship. So if you bear with me 1 minute, I'm going to show a video, and Dr. Fry has seen this video before. We have a number of videos showing success stories, but actually, Dr. Fry, I'm going to show a different video this time. So bear with me just 1 moment. It's only a 2-minute video just on how this program has been working in South Carolina. I'm just going to go on mute just for 1 second. I will pull that up.
Love Apprenticeship Carolina. We love all the apprentice programs.
We use the apprenticeship program as a talent pipeline to develop our technical employees.
With an apprenticeship, you don't have to collect any debt, go to school for free, you get on-the-job training while being paid.
An individual gets paid to pursue an associate degree and have skills to go into the workforce.
I wanted to advance in my career, and Apprenticeship Carolina was a stepping stone for me to achieve that goal.
Working together, Apprenticeship Carolina and the technical colleges help evolve careers and evolve communities.
The apprenticeship program benefits the local businesses by allowing us to grow our own talent pool within our community.
They expose students to careers that they may have never imagined.
I didn't know anything about cybersecurity before the apprenticeship program. Learning coding and IT is like learning a new language for me, and I love it.
Being able to give opportunities to both the youth population and the adult population is so beneficial to the entire community as it elevates everyone.
I've been able to attend and finish high school while I take pharmacy classes at Midlands Technical College and work. I feel very valued that they chose me to be a part of this and still be able to work for the company. It's just truly amazing how much they've done for me.
One of my favorite parts about the apprenticeship program was the hands-on work.
Hands-on training to me really gives me more confidence to be able to actually go out in the workplace and apply that training. You can't beat that.
As they gain skills and experience, students are guaranteed a wage progression. They have a mentorship and a support system that help them become confident employees.
If I didn't have this opportunity at ZF, I would probably still be in the fast food industry. It's just a great opportunity to have.
I can tell you from experience, you're going to come out of it with a person or an employee who has an extended skill set.
Apprenticeship Carolina ensures growing apprenticeship programs is such an easy and enjoyable process.
It's just a great pathway to build our capabilities and the great, wonderful way to do recruiting.
And it really sets them up for a great career.
With my job at ZF, it's given me the financial security I really wanted, and I bought my first truck, paid for it in cash. It's been fantastic.
So thanks for watching a few minutes of the video. That kind of gives you a good snapshot of some of our industries and some of our apprentices who have great success stories. And I thought that would be helpful to see some of the impact that this program has had on local businesses. Luke Kennedy, I'm sure you all are familiar with her. They keep adding new apprenticeships with us every semester. And then you saw some healthcare opportunities, IT, and the list goes on of the different companies we've worked with and the apprentices who have been able to serve their community. So wanted to share that with you as an introduction, and that's really all I have for now. I'm glad to answer any questions you might have or turn it back over to you all.
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you so much for being with us, Ms. Firestone. We appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you all.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to move into our commission committee business. Finance and Audit Committee, Commissioner Blackwood.
All right, Madam Chair, the Finance and Audit Committee met Monday, November 15th, and we have 2 items to bring to the commission today. Item number 1, which is behind tab 3, is really for informational only. It does not require a commission formal vote today. The item there is for a fixed price bid contract for residential services for children. We reviewed, discussed this contract, which is adding the specific request was to add a provider to the established fixed price multi-agency contract. And it's listed there for you in green, and it's simply for informational only for today, based on the nature of the contract. So if there's any questions on that one, that was the first item I wanted to bring from the committee to the full commission.
Okay.
Any questions on that? The next item, which does need a commission vote, is the item under tab 4, which are for outliers. And we were told in our committee meeting that this would likely be the last time we review outlier requests since we're switching to fee-for-service. So we were shown 2 requests that are mentioned on 2 outliers that are on attachment A in your binder behind tab 4. And these 2 outlier requests were denied by the agency, and the commission approved that. The committee approved that request to deny 2 outliers that came in the last few weeks that the agency reviewed. And so for today, just need formal commission approval on those 2 outlier.
So it's a motion and a second coming out of committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. That is approved.
That's all for my committee.
Okay, Commissioner Malford, policy.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Barry Malford, the chairman of the policy committee, and of course, vice chairman of the commission. And we have a couple of, the first item that we want to bring, or the first policy we want to bring your attention to today is 200-04-DD, which is the voluntary contributions and donations. And we have worked on that policy for the last couple of months and got it now to the point of going to public comment, and we only had 1 minor public comment, and that has been addressed, and so therefore we are asking that policy be approved by the commission.
Okay. There's a motion and a second coming out of committee. Is there any discussion regarding this motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Next policy.
The next one is 400-21-DD, which relates to educational credentials. The only real change we made to this policy, which went through the staff, was some links that we had to change in order so that people could get to the links they needed regarding this matter. It simply relates to the approved to the proper educational credentials that you need in order and to approve places that you can go to have these different credentials that people need for DDSN related employees. So that's the only change to that one, and so we're asking that that one will be approved as it is.
Motion and a second coming out of committee. Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Committee update.
The next committee update is, relates to individuals in the criminal justice system. And after a lot of discussion from our policy committee, and additional edits, the policy committee at the next meeting will submit this for approval for public comment. We're submitting it now for public comment, and it will be back to the commission next month. We will be having a meeting in December for that reason and for relating to the voter registration and voter motor bill, we call it, which is 531-10-DD. And that will be discussed at the next policy committee meeting. And we had considered not having a policy committee meeting in December, but because of don't want to further delay this policy, any one of those two policies, we will have a meeting on December 15th at 3 o'clock, which will be the day before our next commission meeting. So therefore, I'll probably be sitting where I am now at that time. But so we just wanted to let y'all know that and just be aware that we'll have another meeting and hopefully get those two out of the way. And we'll hopefully be moving a little quicker next year on some other policies and getting some other things straight. So keep in mind that our public comment period is 10 days. And so please get your if you have any public comments, if the public has any comments, please get them in within that 10-day period, because we do not have to accept them after that. We actually, it's a courtesy that we accept public comment at all. So just keep that in mind as we go along. And that's my report for today.
Thank you, Mr. Malphurs. Next, we're moving on to old business. This is the Idrd waiver renewal update. Ms. Lori Menace. Hey, Lori.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good morning.
So I'm here to give you my monthly update on the Idrd waiver renewal. As I stated last month, the renewal was submitted by the Department of Health and Human Services to the federal CMS agency. The Department of Health and Human Services has received some informal requests for additional information in the form of several questions about the renewal. They have shared with us some of the information in that informal request for additional information, and we are expecting kind of a written list of items that DDSN needs to respond to related to that request. Other than that, we're just really working towards trying to get policy updates and system updates ready for the approval of the renewal. The current waiver expires at the end of December. So a couple of things could happen depending on timing of the renewal. But we are trying to work towards being ready to go with a January 1st approval date for all of the changes in services. You guys have any questions?
Commissioners?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Ann, for a quarterly incident management report.
Good morning.
That report, by the way, is under tab 7 in your book.
Thank you. So as I share with you each quarter, our incident management is about reducing risk to people and improving outcomes. Each and every day, there is a chance for any of us to be impacted by an adverse event. For the folks who are supported by the agency, our role is to look at each situation and ensure that we are asking the right questions to mitigate those risks and to reduce any negative consequences. Our process is intended to ensure timely reporting, immediate reaction to ensure a safety plan, responding with any systemic actions that may be needed, and looking at how we can prevent any future incidents from occurring. To some, this process can appear overly critical, but we're in a role of looking for continuous quality improvement. We ask a lot of questions about the events themselves, including the who, what, when, where, and how, and what we can do to make the situation better, or again, prevent a similar situation in the future.
This usually comes down to appropriate staffing ratios, having the right training in place, supervision, management and oversight, and having the appropriate behavioral and medical supports in place for the individuals in that setting. Our agency has a lot of data about the individual incidents, and we look at trends across providers to see how things are tracking and look at systemic issues. Do we need to make recommendations for policy changes? Do we need to make recommendations for additional professional consultation, whatever the case may be? As the reports are completed, they should tell us the whole story. Most of our reports, with a few exceptions, are self-reported. Our providers submit reports to us to tell us what's going on within their provider agencies. The providers must attest as they complete their reports that the information is valid, complete, and correct. So in tab 7, as you look at the charts that are there, you'll see that we have a 5-year timeline with a bar graph for the abuse, neglect, and exploitation allegations in community, residential, and day services there at the top. And our trend lines are very stable there. There's really, the line is flat for community residential services. The number of reports, the number of allegations, and even the administrative findings are tracking right where we would expect them to be for this point in the fiscal year. For day services, the number of reports is actually going up a little bit, but again, we would expect that because remember, most of those programs were closed throughout COVID, and those programs are still in a stage of rebuilding and you know, getting their attendance back to where it was before the pandemic. As you review data at the bottom of the page for the regional centers, you'll notice that the annualized projections have more than doubled for the number of allegations and the standard of care findings. So as we discussed during my last report and even the quarterly report before that, the numbers overall were tracking downward for fiscal year 21. And we had a series of events that occurred during the summer that it spurred some additional oversight, additional review of reports at the regional centers. So up until the fourth quarter, the numbers were very low. Central office ended up submitting 16 reports for one of the regional centers. So this has contributed to that higher number of reports for the regional centers that you see there at the bottom of the page. Beginning September 1st, we also had some changes to our internal policies. So in addition to reviewing some of the video at the one center, we have staff who are also looking at video at other centers, and there have been a handful of reports related to that effort. So as we consider a more intensive review and what happened this past summer, I think it's worth looking at the numbers. Sometimes the impact of that effort gets lost because we think of the hyper focus on the regional centers. And I think to frame that correctly, we have to remember that the regional centers make up less than 14% of the residential population for people supported at DDSN. And they also represent some of our most vulnerable participants. And they're not contracted services, they're actually DDSN employees. So that frames things a little bit differently from our community residential providers. When we look at the higher number of reports, there were 38 reports for one regional center that came in. And, you know, about half of those have turned out to have either, there were 6 of those reports that had arrests that were publicized. And then we had other reports that had standard of care findings. About half of those had no findings at all because they were unsubstantiated or they were not accepted for investigation by SLED. For fiscal year 22 in this first quarter, each of the centers has had an increase in their overall reporting numbers. And we already have 2 of the centers reporting about half of what they reported for the entire year last year. And from my perspective, that's a good thing because that means people are reporting. Allegations in and of themselves are not a bad thing, and I can't stress that enough. We want people to report. Our policy says, when in doubt, report. We want to make sure if there are any doubts about the services that are being provided, that they are looked into appropriately, that they are vetted through the appropriate investigative agency, that staff have an opportunity to look at policies and procedures, to look at the need for additional staff training. Is there a need for additional behavior supports? Is there a need for a different physical management plan for the person? So there are all sorts of opportunities for improvement that come along with allegations. The allegations themselves do not mean there are problems. The areas where we need corrections are where we have the administrative findings or the substantiated cases through SLED. So, I don't want people to have a misunderstanding about the rising number of allegations. Any questions about the A&E allegations?
Fiscal years from what to what?
July 1st through June 30. All right. So for critical incidents, on the next page, those numbers have been adjusted to exclude reports related to positive COVID cases. We had reported COVID cases in our critical incident system, and we didn't want to cloud the system and exponentially inflate those numbers. The remaining reports highlight challenges within our system that continue to be related to staffing shortages. That is an issue across the board. And it emphasizes a need for enhanced behavior supports as reflected in the increased number of law enforcement calls, suicidal ideation, and restraints. Those areas continue to track a little higher and are likely the result of the staffing and the need for additional behavior supports. Similar trends can be found in the regional centers there at the bottom of the page. And I have included information on our deaths throughout the system. The number of death reports is tracking higher. Our 5-year average is moving upwards for both community-based and regional center settings. For the first quarter, there were a few COVID-related fatalities, but most of the fatalities were related to either cardiac issues, terminal illnesses, or other respiratory conditions. As I often remind this group, we do have a population that is aging in place, and we know that there are comorbidities associated with people with developmental disabilities and those who are living in long-term care settings. So we know that as people age, there is going to be a higher incidence of the fatalities. In the community settings, there was one individual who passed away who was 98 as a testament of her care. And in the regional centers, there was someone this past quarter that passed away at the age of 88. There were a couple of people in their 70s. The vast majority were well into their 50s and 60s at the time of their passing. I will also remind the group that all fatalities within the DDSN network and presidential services are reported to SLED for review, and they are referred for discussion within the Vulnerable Adult Fatality Review Committee, which is an interdisciplinary committee that includes representatives from multiple agencies, coroner's offices, solicitor's offices, et cetera, just to staff those cases and look for any trends and make recommendations. All right. Any questions?
Commission questions for Ms. Dalton?
Is there anything that you'd recommend that the commission to be proactive on any of these?
Right now, we are working with the regional centers to try to standardize some of the reporting processes. So recently within risk, 2 staff have been hired, 2 additional staff positions have been posted to assist with the investigations at regional centers whenever there are allegations, to look at
policy and procedure violations, to make sure that the state investigative agency, whether it's SLED, the Ombudsman's office, or whomever, make sure they get the information they need, and to coordinate those reports. We are also working with the regional offices or regional centers to make sure that they often come up with their own list of corrective actions, whether that's training, putting in those behavior supports that I mentioned, looking at physical management plans. Their management team will come up with the plan. But we're going back to those teams to say, when was it completed? Who has monitored the implementation? Did it work? Do we need to go back to plan B? You know, just continuing to close that loop and make sure that the systems are in place. We have talked about cameras, and we have met with the camera vendor and realized that the camera systems are not being utilized to their full potential. So we do have some recommendations about that as well.
Other questions?
I have a question about the training that the Department of Aging was supposed to be providing based on the memorandum of agreement that we did a few months ago, that the agency did with that agency. What's the, to offer better training to DSPs and staff, what's the status of that training, and how much training have we done, and what's the, I guess?
Rufus is not in the room. He would be in the best position to answer that question.
That later. I just wanted to.
I know that in my communication with the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman's office, they too have requested an update on that. I know that the training was provided to DDSN in early August. I am not sure about the actual implementation and rollout to the regional centers. I know that that training is supplemental and was supposed to be provided in conjunction with internal agency training related to A&E.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Thank you, Ann. We appreciate it. Let's move on. Cost report update, Pat Malik.
Let's see, where are we? We're on, okay, fee for service update. Yeah, that's good.
Good morning. I will do both of them, in either order you prefer, but let me do the fee for service first. You've been hearing since June of this year about our progress to complete the transferring our payment system to fee for service. And all the prior reports came with caveats about the milestones that we had to make, the little caveats that we had to overcome to get there. And I'm happy to report this morning, after yesterday's meeting with HHS and the providers, there are no more caveats, there's no more contingencies, that we will be moving fully to fee for service in the very near term. The planning phase between HHS and DDSN has been intense over the past couple of months. And again, I cannot stress the support we get from HHS and their cooperation and leadership to help us with this transition. There has been some anxiety about how this all is going to play out. It's beginning technically on January 1st, and we're sitting here in the middle of Thanksgiving, November. But again, I'm happy to report that yesterday we had a meeting with HHS and a large group of providers that are representative of the people that serve our individuals. And what I want to do is just brief you on the outline of that meetings. And I think probably in the near term, there's going to be a written communication by both agencies to keep a singular communication tool to our provider network. But I think people are anxious to hear what has been announced publicly, so I'm going to go over my bullet list. And I won't go beyond my bullet list, but it is good news. HHS is going to ask CMS to renew the Idrd waiver effective January 1st of 22. And certainly the waiver renewal is a different project than fee for service, but the two are joined at the hip and they're going to start on the same day. There will be a transition period to permit providers to enroll in Medicaid, training on direct billing to HHS, and obviously we still have a lot of work to do to convert policies and contracts from our capitated model to fee-for-service. The go-live date is scheduled for March of 22. To get the funding between now and the go-live date, which has obviously been a big discussion about cash flows, is that the plan is for DDSN to continue its capitated payments, continue through January 1st and into next year. On January 1st, we will increase the bands by the new waiver rates. So we'll have to recalculate the bands with the new waiver rates when they become finalized, so that our provider network gets the funds that are due to them at the earliest point in time. DDSN will continue with its prospective payments until the go-live date. And just prior to the go-live date, we will make our last prospective payments. 2 weeks will go by, and at that point, the providers will assume the posture of paying fee-for-service. And from a cash flow perspective, where that helps the providers is that they're able, by billing directly to HHS through their portal, they can continuously bill HHS literally every day. And HHS pays 4 times a month, weekly. So they can control their own cash flow going forward through that billing mechanism. So that addresses a lot of the cash flow concerns by a provider network. The rates, the residential rates are still in their final stages. At yesterday's meeting, they were going to be released, correct me if I'm wrong, at the end of the week, Friday. But give them a little room, maybe till Monday, but certainly their goal is to get it by the end of the week. I think Director Kerr said it best, the rates are favorable. As most people know, that in the Idrd waiver renewal, they did set out a lot of average cost rates, which would be the rates going forward for our non-residential services, and they were all very significant increases. So we're really waiting for the details on the residential rates that are coming very shortly. Also yesterday, HHS advised that we have 2 other services, waiver case management and community ICF. They advised that they will take our fiscal year 19 cost report and add cost trend data to it and adjust those rates as well in the near term. I think that's really good.
Repeat that again?
We have two rates, waiver case management. There's 2 rates in waiver case management and the community ICF rate. Those HHS told us yesterday they will use our fiscal year 19 cost report with updated cost data, and then they will add cost trend data to the 19 numbers to roll into 22, and that they will adjust those rates accordingly. Essentially what they did for the IDRD rates. So that's good news. And I think I want to conclude with, I'm just speaking for myself. I encourage Dr. Fry or lawyers in the meeting that when we left the provider network meeting yesterday at HHS, they were comfortable with the transition. They were comfortable with the cash flow issue. And we certainly have a lot of work to do, but I felt a sense of the information met their information needs. There's a timeline and a course of action to go forward. There's a lot of work to be done, but I felt like it was very positive, and I encourage you to talk to providers that we have a firm plan to move forward. There's still a lot to do, but with the timeline in front of us, I think it's all doable, and certainly within this timeline, I see flexibility as a key factor, but it's all good news.
Great.
Any questions?
Questions? Yes, sure.
That should,
But Commissioner LaBelle has more.
no, go ahead, fine. You're more important than me, go ahead, sir.
When the billing comes in, you said the DHHS will be sending out funds on a weekly basis, right? Is that
4 times a month?
4 times a month.
When it turns to fee for service,
Yeah.
an individual provider is able to bill. You can bill every day,
Right.
but there's a cutoff, and they pay 4 times.
Right, they pay 4
every
times.
week
Are those payments going to be going directly to the providers, or is that going to be still funneled through us?
to the providers.
So we're out of that business at that point in time. Okay. And in between that go live date, are they turning on, is DHHS turning on their billing system at all to do a stress test? In other words, are we going to be doing billing during that January to March as a test bed? Do we know?
I'll defer to them to answer those
Okay.
questions. The only thing I heard yesterday was they did take volunteers from the provider network, so that as we do this training arc, that they will use some providers to test the system. So, but
There's stress testing going.
They took volunteers for testing.
Okay,
That's good.
good, thank you.
Yes, Mr.
Go ahead. I've decided I'll defer my question until next month.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Miller?
I just wanted to say, doing a great job.
Yeah, very good. We appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Very good, very good. All right, go ahead, Pat. Let's do the next one.
Cost reports? All right. I'll do a quick recap. In the last 4 months, fiscal years 13, 14, 15, and 19 have been completed by DDSN and sent over to HHS. Fiscal year 19 has been essentially used as the foundation for the Idrd waiver renewal. Fiscal year 16 and 17 have been over there for several years. So what's pending is 18, 20, and 21. We're in the middle of 18. We're hopeful to have it done by February. Again, that's contingent upon the fee-for-service load downstairs, but I think that's a reasonable estimate. And then that will give us 7 more months to do 20 and 21 with the goal of November 1st of next year, that they're all over at HHS, so that when we get this year's cost reports next November 1st, we can start on them right away and be on a real-time basis. And that's all I have.
Your system, Mark, you're way ahead of me all the time. I looked back on an email we received from the SCH-SPA, and their final position was that without either a timely billing system or a regional loan system being implemented concurrent to the shift from prospective to retrospective payments, that the provider network faces significant destabilization. That's been taken care of.
The risk of like a 6-week cash flow loss is down to literally a week. A provider can bill the very first week of April. So I think that significantly addresses the cash flow issue. As far as loans, I think we still have some more details to work out, but certainly it takes the risk out of the provider network, but we still have providers out there with low reserves, and we will be engaging them at a level. And I think part of our ultimate rollout is to bring a more formal technical assistance program to all the provider network, particularly those in need as they enter this new fee-for-service world. And we'll give you more on that shortly.
So their billing will be electronically submitted?
They go to a web tool and enter the data through a web tool.
Thank you. You're still way ahead.
Catch up.
Further questions?
We are doing great, but that was a misnomer to think there was ever any problem with destabilization. We never had a problem with destabilization.
All right, next, let's move on. The next report is Courtney Crosby, Internal Auditor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. So I wanted to start with an update on our agreed upon procedures report. So at our last meeting, we noted that the review of our 2020 agreed upon procedures reports for the DSN boards was complete. But we had 7 remaining 2020 reports for providers to review. So we've completed the review of 3 of those reports and have 4 that are outstanding. Our contract reductions related to those 2020 reports total $20,300. October 31st was the deadline for 2021 reports for the DSN boards. We've received 29 reports. 10 boards were granted extensions. And that 1 remaining board has indicated that we should be receiving their report any day. There are 9 providers that have June 30 year ends that result in an October 31st reporting deadline. So we've received 7 of those reports and 2 are on extension. So we're still working to complete some of those fiscal year 2021 audits that carried over into this fiscal year. We anticipate issuing the environmental modifications report later this month. If we have some delays with the holidays, we'll be sure to get that to you before the December meeting. We initiated a consumer funds and personal property audit in the provider network during October.
We've also begun performing some follow-up procedures to determine if corrective action plans have been implemented by management. So our professional standards require that we establish a follow-up process to monitor and ensure that management corrective action plans have been effectively implemented. And at our October meeting, I briefed you on the development of an audit observation tracking report that's designed to comply with that standard. So a draft of that report was shared with Commissioner Blackwood and Dr. Fry for feedback. We're ready to populate the report with our outstanding audit observations, and we've proposed quarterly reporting to both the Finance and Audit Committee and the full commission. And that first quarterly report will be sent to you in advance of the December meeting dates. So any questions I can answer?
Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Tommy Windsor, legislative update.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Tab 8 in your book. We need to pull it.
Tab 8.
Tab 8.
Just wanted to give you a brief update on what's going on legislatively with the commission at this point. The General Assembly will reconvene on Tuesday, January the 11th. So that's when things are going to get started back. The House will actually be returning in December for 3 days to take up some redistricting matters, and the Senate will be returning as well, but we don't know what date they're going to be coming back on yet. So the meetings and everything are getting ramped up in preparation for the session beginning in January. The House began pre-filing legislation last Wednesday on November the 10th, and they pre-filed again yesterday. In your packet, there is an attachment that has the pre-filed legislation that was submitted last Wednesday. There is actually no direct legislation that has been pre-filed that is DDSN per se related. There are several pieces of legislation that are peripheral that deal with DDSN, but it deals with other agencies as well. And most of that is COVID related, ranging from not allowing you to use vaccination as a requirement for employment, or being able to terminate employees who refuse to get vaccinated. So that's where a bulk of that pre-filed legislation is addressing right now that would have any kind of impact on DDSN. I also included in your packet a synopsis of the pending legislation from last legislative session. That includes, dealing with qualifications for training with commissioners, family support services, providing regulation for the behavior analyst and assistant behavior analysts. And again, some more COVID-oriented legislation that was proposed that currently, as you'll see on your sheet, it gives you a status of where they are. They're in committee right now. So having said that, we are continuing to meet and reach out to legislators across the state. I can tell you that it has been quite the asset to myself to be able to take Dr. Fry with me when we have gone and met with some of our key legislators, because they are overwhelmingly impressed. And I don't say that gratuitously with my boss sitting here with me. I'm just saying that because it's been really helpful. They have been very positive about the changes that are occurring here at DDSN over the last several months. So with that, I will ask commissioners if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them.
Could you kind of tell us which legislators you have met with?
We have met with Senator Alexander. We met with him last week. We met with Senator Burden. Our schedules are getting all mixed up. We had meetings scheduled with some other legislators, and we have rescheduling done. So we've got rescheduling with Senator Shealy to do, and with Senator Hutto, Senator Malloy. So we've got some that are out there in the pipeline, but we haven't gotten to them yet because it's very hard to set up an appointment with a legislator and managing schedules, because they have a tendency to sometimes cancel on you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. We appreciate it. Keep us updated.
Any questions?
You said that the Senate was coming into session as well in December, but that's going to be just redistricting only?
Primarily, yes, sir. That's all they'll be taking up is the redistricting issue. They'll be getting all that prepared going into the next session.
right, I wait, Commissioner Bell.
And House 3181, the training, which has been one that we've dealt with a lot as a commission. How far along is that? I mean, basically the subcommittee had sort of said, we heard you that what we wrote originally wasn't particularly good, and we're sort of pushing the pause button on it. Has the pause button come off of that, or is it still just kind of sitting there?
Not to my knowledge, but I feel that was the correct approach, and I've reached out to those involved in this legislation because having been a person involved in the appointment of boards and commissions, the more qualifications that you put on a board or a commission, the smaller the pool of candidates you have to pick. For example, one of the candidate qualifications they wanted to have is a 4-year degree. Well, 2/3 of the state of South Carolina don't have a 4-year degree, but 2/3 of this state are, many of those are completely capable of sitting on this commission and making decisions about how we spend their money. So I think sometimes there is a more reactive action from the General Assembly, sometimes more than a really deliberative action. So on these pre-file or these bills that have been pending from last year, some of what we can do is go back and tweak those a little bit with those legislators and make it more effective.
Because one thing, sort of the ending was, if this starts rising up again, what we want from the commission is you to make recommendations to us about what should be on that qualifications list. So if that starts coming up, I think that's definitely something that you should bring back to us so that we can decide about recommendations that we want to make, just based upon my last appearance in President, which was a while back. But.
Well, I can tell you pretty confidently that the statute's pretty good as it is. I don't see a reason why we should do anything to increase the burden of appointment, because we used to have an old saying that was everybody that you want to appoint doesn't want to be appointed, and everybody that you don't want to appoint wants to be appointed. So when you find people like we have on this commission, we're very fortunate. So because it's a commitment to do this, and you're not paid to do it, and people tend to forget that these are citizen-appointed commissions by the governor that allow him to try to exercise his policies and his philosophies over our state agencies. So it's something that I think more inclusive. I think inclusiveness is better.
3181 refers to DDSN only, or that's commissioners in general?
No, just to DDSN commissioners.
What's the backstory on that? Do they have a backstory?
I don't really have a backstory on it other than
LSC probably might have put it maybe in, I don't know,
well,
one of their reports at one point saying we weren't.
Or it could have been a legislator or somebody who was a little upset with some things that went on at DDSN and decided that, oh, well, I know what we'll do. We'll just make more qualifications, which is typically what happens in a situation like this, is that there's, again, like I said, a legislative reaction versus a deliberative action. So it's not something that I think is problematic. I think it's not going to really be a big deal that we could work through this issue because it's, again, I think we'll have a lot of allies also too if this were to rear its head, because again, we don't want to make something, we don't want to make things harder on the governor. And that piece of legislation would actually do that. And he doesn't want things to make me harder on him either. So
They can give every applicant a list of acronyms. They can name them to be appointed.
There we go. I think there's the qualification. Commissioner Lamel, Dr. Cover came up with it. So if you can pass the acronym test, you're pretty good.
Yeah, I think when we went, part of it was the question was probably focused on familiarity with what DDSN did, the community that we served and things like that. But the way they wrote it at one point in time was you either had to be in the industry or have a child who was receiving services.
And that's
Great
still
family member. And that narrowed it down a lot. It would exclude a lot of people who have served over the years, including me, because technically I didn't fall under either one of those. And then, so part of it was the education of direct experience of knowing that acronyms when you walk in isn't nearly as important as your willingness to learn once you get on there. And that was one of the big points that we made to them the last time.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, is that from that standpoint, as being familiar with the issue of the commission that you're appointed to. Sometimes it is best to have several people who aren't as familiar with the issue, because then they tend to ask questions. They're more inquisitive as a whole because they want to find out, what do these acronyms stand for? What does this mean? What does this mean? Whereas someone who might already be ingrained in the industry, or have or be quote unquote a stakeholder, takes for granted certain things. They make things, it's just what they're used to. And the person who is not the expert, quote unquote, brings a fresh eye of, skepticism to things. It's like, well, why do you do that? Well, that may not be the best way to do it. So, there's a lot of healthiness to having people who are not experts in their field have input on boards and commissions.
Well, and then experts in other fields is the other element. We talk whether it's an engineer, whether it's somebody CPA
Yeah.
who has the financial background,
Yeah.
criminal law. They always seems to saying that as our agency overlaps with other areas, having that expertise. Something that we had to explain to them is actually as valuable as expertise within the industry itself. We've got a lot of people in this room who have expertise with the industry itself.
Correct. And that's, you just happened to mention a bill that I can speak quite a bit about, considering that I handled the appointments for the governor. That's exactly right. And I know that one of the things that he was stressing is, I want to make sure that I have an attorney on the board. I want to make sure that I have someone who knows about finances on the board. So he wants people who have that different experience and from different walks of life to make sure that there is diversity on all the boards. And just because they may not have that subject matter expertise in what the board deals with doesn't mean that they still can't be an effective member that contributes.
Okay. Madam Chair, that's why Barry's, I'm sitting beside Barry. It bleeds off over here.
Oh, commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, thank you so much. Do you have another question? Tommy, do you have another question? Anybody? Okay, very good. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank y'all.
All right, we're going on to new business, financial update, Pat.
A very simple report. We have 9. This is our monthly report where we compare our spending plan to our actual cash expenditures plus the HHS adjustment due to us only paying the state match. And we are 2/3 or 1/3. We have 2/3 of the year left, and we have 67.42% of our budget left, which means we are under budget by 0.76%. So we're right on target. Again, I think the fact that we are having an Idrd waiver renewal where there could be substantial increases, we're going to have to take a look at this budget and adjust it sometime midterm because of the new unanticipated expenses because of the increased rates so that we can track them and know whether we're on target or not. So you have to give us a little time on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't, my year did something. What was your last sentence?
Our spending plan is based on what was known at the beginning of the fiscal year. And at that time, we could not predict that we would be getting the rates that we're getting in the Idrd waiver renewal. So when January 1st comes and we have these new increased rates, our spending is going to go up. So I have to adjust the spending plan to account for that new factor because it's so significant to our spending.
This is sort of off subject a little bit, but I learned something through my meeting with community options. When a project is state funded, we don't receive match for it. Is there a significant number of that out there?
We have been working hard over the last 3 years to knock that number down. I can give you a number afterwards. I would say it's, I have to give you a number afterwards. I have a hard number on that. But we do have state funded programs for unique circumstances. Early intervention, residential. There are state programs. We try to get people Medicaid matched to the fullest extent possible and keep them Medicaid, but we do have state funds for those circumstances.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none, thank you, Pat. All right, our director's update.
Do we want the motion to approve the financial update?
Oh, yeah, we can.
That's the question.
There's no motion listed, but do I have a motion to approve the financial update?
So move.
Second. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's approved. All right, now let's move on to director's update.
So I'm going to start my update by just doing a little follow-up from earlier. There was a question about the Department of Aging training, and I wanted to clarify that that video has been incorporated into an initiative. We've been really thinking about training as an agency, and so we're standardizing training across our regional centers. And so the Department of Aging video is incorporated into that. The purpose of that is to ensure that it's standardized and that this core content gets incorporated across those trainings. Similarly, I wanted to highlight that this week we hosted a training for new executive directors for local boards, as well as continued executive directors and new DDSN staff. We had 23 individuals participate in that training. It was onboarding. It covered a number of different topics. The feedback from that has been really positive. I want to thank everyone who participated and all of the DDSN staff who worked to make that such a success. I have continued to travel around and as quickly as possible to meet with a number of different providers. I want to thank all of them for the time that they have donated to that. It's really helpful to meet with them and their key staff. Robin described earlier that we met with Tyler Rex. There have been a number of others, as well as making our way to other centers or to our regional centers. It's great to hear their perspectives about the key matters affecting those who we serve. We're also participating in a number of meetings with agencies on the network. It gives us an opportunity to have this dialogue with executive directors, CEOs, and their key staff. The meetings are very informative, so thank you for those who have invited me to participate in the team. And we continue to plan to participate in those. I know we have one coming up on Friday. And I'll also note that we're planning to try to streamline some of these meetings and host some ourselves to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to have these dialogue. Some fun events that I want to highlight. On Halloween, I had the chance to go to Witten Center and participate in the Bob Lawless event. There were more than 240 motorcyclists and riders from clubs around the state who visited, and they hosted live music and leisure activities for those we serve and their families. It was a fantastic event, and there were a number of DDSN team members who were there. And I just want to publicly recognize Mr. James Lawless for continuing this legacy event that was started by his father. And I also want to thank the Witten Center Parents Club for their faithful support of our agency and the Witten Center. I just can't say enough about what a wonderful event that was, and I know that we posted some pictures on the Facebook site. It's already been mentioned that we have been having some interagency meetings with DHHS, so we want to thank them for all of their positive collaboration. We're going to continue those regular meetings to ensure that the transition to fee-for-service and to direct pay is successful. And we've, as Pat described, we have already heard positive feedback about this approach of having the agencies working together on the communications and outreach related to those transitions. We've also had an interagency meeting with Department of Social Services with Director Leach and a number of his key staff, and had a really productive discussion about how we can continue to strategically serve those individuals who both of our agencies serve. As you heard earlier, November was proclaimed as Apprenticeship Month for South Carolina. And we are really excited. As everyone knows, the labor crisis is being felt across our network. And we are excited to be partnering with them to think strategically about how apprenticeships may help us create a pipeline of talent for some of our most critical area, the highest need areas. And we'll continue to bring you updates on that. I know, and then early on, we've talked about an apprenticeship for CNA positions, an apprenticeship for our high needs and behavioral supports. And we're really excited. As you heard, there isn't cost for us. There's time, so there's the human capital of providing the mentorship, but there is not a cost associated with this. And thinking continually about how we can address those pipeline challenges is a great opportunity. On the other side of that, we're really excited to start having a conversation about how apprenticeships might be incorporated into day programs as part of employment initiatives and standing up some high quality models and for those who want to raise their hand and participate in those. And the last piece that I want to highlight is South Carolina Human Services Provider Association's Leadership Academy. We are partnering with them to support their Executive Director's Leadership Academy. The academy commences in January of 22, which is not that far away, and serves to groom future leaders in the human services field and enhance the knowledge of current leaders. We will participate in the inaugural classes with opening remarks and presentations by many of our key staff. I want to thank the association for sponsoring the event, and we look forward to participating.
All right. Great. Are there any questions for the director? Hearing none. All right. We are now going to enter into executive session to deal with a personnel matter regarding organizational restructuring. I would recommend that we take a 15 to 20 minute break for personal needs and maybe grab some lunch, and we will come back into full session when that executive session is over. Okay. Do I have a motion to enter?
So moved.
Second, moved. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we will now move into executive session. Commissioner Thomas, we will call you from the executive session room downstairs. All right, we have concluded, this is the South Carolina Department of Disability and Special Needs Commission. We have concluded executive session, risen out, no decisions were made, and no votes were taken in executive session. We finished executive session at 12:45 for the record and return back to our seats. We are now before the commission. Is there any further business that needs to be brought before the commission?
I would make a motion to approve the proposed organizational chart created by the executive director for restructuring purposes.
Great. Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Will be posted on our website?
We posted. I do have one amendment to that, if you don't mind. I would like to change the title to CIO instead of CAO.
You need to change the information technology to CIO.
Yes, okay, so that will be the change.
I have no objection to that change.
Okay,
Second.
all right. All in favor of the change, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now the motion is to approve the organizational chart as written, or with the amendment made. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, except that we will post it in an expeditious manner when it is prudent for the staff to do so. We do not know exactly what day that will be or hour that will be.
Okay.
Just for the record.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a motion?
So
all right, and a second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries and it is approved. Is there any further business that needs to come before the commission?
Now make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second on that motion?
So move. Second.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The next regular meeting of the South Carolina Department of Disability and Special Needs will be December 16th at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.